Okay, this is the first little section of your classification unit notes. This is going to be a pretty big unit. We actually have to break it down into two tests. So the first little bit is going to be bacteria, protist, fungi, and plants, and viruses, and just some introductory language. So some of this stuff should be review for you. So we need to review. I remember Miss Sewell taught you way back in the day when we learned about cells back in our blue notes that there are 4 things that everything needs in order to survive. The first one being food, water, shelter, or living space. And the last one is homeostasis. Remember, our little way to remember that is stable internal conditions. If you take the first letter, it's S-I-C, sick. Okay, so right here, stable internal conditions spells sick. And when you're in homeostasis, you are not sick. So I know it's a little bit kind of weird to think about it that way, but when you're in homeostasis, you're not sick. So why do we need to even do this? Why should we classify organisms at all? Well, 1, the state of Virginia makes us do it. But 2, there are more than 1 million different animals out there. 1 million species. There's animals and plants and bugs, and there's coral, and there's bacteria and fungi and all kinds of stuff. And every single day we find more and more organisms out there, so we have to be able to organize them. So we're going to find them and then classify them into similar groups. Okay, kind of think back to that little activity we started just a few minutes ago. So I gave you a bunch of animals and you sorted them, and hopefully if you did it right, you put all the cats together and you put all the water animals together and that kind of trend. So think about like a grocery store. Okay, when you walk into the grocery store and you're going in for your favorite food, which just happens to be Oreos, I know that I'm going to go to the cookie aisle because all of the cookies are in the same place. Now, if the stores didn't sort their foods like this, you might have to walk up and down 14 aisles until you found the Oreo cookies. But the grocery stores, they keep all the fruits and vegetables together, and they keep all the milk and yogurts together, and they keep all the juices and the sodas together. So it makes your life just a little bit easier. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to keep all of our organisms classified. We're going to put all plants in the plant aisle, and then we're going to put, maybe specify that a little bit more. We're going to put the trees on the left side, and then we're going to put the bushes and shrubs on the right side. We're going to break it down even more, and that's what this unit's going to be focusing on. So here's your official definition. Classification is the process of grouping things based on their similarities. Okay, so think right back to that grocery store. Fruits and vegetables have one big major thing in common is they're fresh. They're going to decompose after a few days if people don't buy them. So that's why they keep them in that front section so they can easily take them in and out so it's cold. They're going to keep it together based on what's the same. Classifying things makes it easier to study. If you grow up and you become a scientist, you have to pick a specific science to study. You're not just going to be a scientist. You might study plants and be called a botanist. Or maybe you really like the chemicals inside of your own body. So you might be a chemist. You can study mushrooms. I don't know the name for that one. You can study how the human body is made up, and you could be a surgeon. So there's all different types of sciences out there. It makes it easier to study when you know what you like. Same thing here with the animals. And the study of how organisms are classified is called taxonomy. So you can be a taxonomist when you're older. Don't get that confused with a taxidermist. That's when you stuff dead things like me. Different job. A taxonomist, they're going to keep things together. They're going to put all the bears together, and they're going to put all the jellyfish together. All of those kind of things. So that's what we are now. We're now taxonomists. Taxonomy is useful because once an organism is classified, we now know a whole lot about it. So think of it this way. A crow, as you see in this picture, is a bird. So because I know it's a bird, I know that it has a beak, feathers, and wings because those things are pretty unique to birds. Sure, an octopus has a beak, and sure, there are some other organisms that can fly, such as bugs, but in order for a bird to be a bird, it has to have all three of those, a beak, feathers, and wings. Okay, so we're going to keep getting into these trends as we move through the tree of life. Let's call it that for now. So in order to really be a good taxonomist, you have to know how to name things. And I'm not saying like calling your white cat Fluffy. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about its scientific name, just like Carl here, Carl Linnaeus. He started this system. Okay, back in the 1730s, so way, way, way long ago. He really piloted this system of naming organisms, Carl Linnaeus. Okay, what he determined is that every organism on Earth gets a two-part name based on their phenotype. And recall what a phenotype is. It's its physical appearance. So we're going to look at an organism and we're going to name it based on that. So this officially has a big long name, but don't freak out. Binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature. The prefix bi means two, just like a bicycle, binoculars, or your bicep. Okay, and then nomenclature, kind of, if you take those first four letters, it kind of looks like the word name. So it's a two-part name. So everything on Earth has a two-part name, and most likely you don't know a lot of these. So that's what we're going to learn about. So the first part of the name is going to be something called a genus. That's when we're going to put all of the same things together. They're very closely related. So the one I'm going to use here is Felis. That is the genus of cats. Cats, pumas, lions, those kind of big animals that are cat-like. Okay, so Felis. But Felis is very broad. If I walked up to you and I said, hey, my favorite animal is Felis, think of the word feline, by the way. You're going to say, Miss Riddle, what kind of cat? Because there's big cats, small cats, mean cats, fluffy cats. Okay, so I need to get more specific. So that's where the second part of the name comes in. So the second part is the species. Think to that word specific, okay? So when I said my favorite cat was a Felis, and you said, Miss Riddle, get more specific, that's where I'm going to tell you the species. Remember that a species, they can do two things. One, they can mate, they can do the kissing, and two, they actually make a baby. So that's where we need to get very specific. So my favorite animal is a Felis domesticus, or the domestic cat. I like the one that lives in my house, Nuka. He's a little cutie. Now, I'm not saying I don't like lions. They're cute, but they're a little angry. Okay, so the Felis domesticus is a two-part name. The first part here, Felis, is going to be your genus. The second part is going to be your species. Okay, so the two-part name, each part has a different name to it. So at first, organisms are going to be classified into very broad groups. So Felis was very broad. I'm talking about cats in the house, lions, tigers, pumas, lynx, all of those. Then I needed to get more specific so you really understood what was going on. So you wouldn't walk up to someone and say, hey, my favorite animal is a dog. It might be a specific type of dog. It might be a German Shepherd or a Poodle or a Lab. So you want to get as specific as you can when you're talking about animals in science. So here's the system we're going to use. It's going to seem a little daunting at first. You'll catch on quick. So domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. There are those last two. We already recognized those. So the way you're going to help remember this, or the way we're going to help you remember this, is it's this little acronym over here on the side. King Philip came over for good spaghetti. But there's that domain. See how we have domain here, but we don't have it up here? So you can say daring or dazzling. Sometimes I like to say drunk King Philip came over for good spaghetti. Okay. So we're going to look at this picture for just a second. So you see up top here, we have Kingdom Animalia. What that's saying is in this kingdom, it's very broad. We're talking about all animals. Grizzly bear, black bear, giant panda, red fox, the squirrel, the snake, and the sea star. Then the phylum, see how the slice of pizza is getting more and more narrow? Well, we got phylum Chordata, which we're going to make sense of that in a few weeks. But what that means is this organism has a backbone. So we had to get rid of the sea star because there's no backbone there. They don't have a spine. Okay, next we're going to get even more specific. Notice that our pizza slice got even more narrow. Class Mammalia. That means that it's going to take care of its young. It's going to produce milk for the baby. Well, snakes don't produce milk for the baby, so we got rid of them. Then we have order Carnivora. Well, that kind of sounds like the word carnivorous because that's what's going on here. Squirrels are not carnivorous. They eat seeds and nuts and berries. So we got rid of them because the grizzly bear, the black bear, the panda, and the red fox all eat other living things at some point. Okay. So see how we're just getting more and more specific here, and this will keep making more sense as we keep going on. The last thing we got to cover today is taxonomic keys. These things are easy. These are guides to help you identify an organism. So if you ever grow up and you're a scientist and you're out in nature and you look at this bug and you go, I wonder what kind of bug this is. Well, that's where this thing's going to come in, a taxonomic key. It's going to have paired statements, so 2 statements, that describe the physical characteristics of an organism. And we're going to kind of look at this on the next slide. Okay, so an example might be, can the bug fly? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then you're going to go maybe to page 4, and if the answer is no, you're going to go to page 6. Okay, it's kind of like my brother used to read these chapter books when he was young, and when you got to the end of the chapter, it said, if you would have jumped off the tree limb, go to chapter 2. If you would have hid behind the tree, go to chapter 3. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at here. So let's start over here, all the way on the left side. Does it have dry skin? Yes or no? Well, if it's no, it's a salamander. Because salamanders breathe through their skin, so they need to have wet skin. So our next question, hair. If the answer is no, it's a lizard. Lizards don't have hair. If the answer is yes, you keep going. Does it have an opposable thumb? If the answer is no, it's a tiger. Or something else, because tigers don't have opposable thumbs like we do. If the answer is yes, you come down here. Is it bipedal, which means does it stand on 2 legs? Well, no, it's a gorilla. Or yes, it's us. Okay, so they're not too hard. We're going to practice them tomorrow. We're going to do 2 of them tomorrow. And I just think this one's cool. It kind of ties together the taxonomic key and a little bit of evolution. You can see back here in 1903, there was only 8 crayon colors. And now all the way up here in 2010, look at all these crayon colors we have. We have so many different options, all from this start way back here. And then I love this picture, and it's nice that you guys can see it up close. This is every animal that exists on Earth as of this, whatever year this picture was taken. I pulled it in 2016, so most likely it's a little outdated. But you can see here, this is where people believe evolution started. All Earth started, all animals and plants started from this one little thing right down here. And then it started to branch out. We got bacteria, we got plants and fungi, mushrooms. We got the starfish, the sharks, the fish. We got the amphibians, the reptiles, the birds, and us. We are all the way over here somewhere, the mammals. Okay, so we have evolved the furthest from the original way back here. So I just think that picture is awesome and cool to look at. So hopefully this works. Cross your fingers, and please refer back to Google Classroom as to where to go next.